So good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to welcome you all to this webinar dedicated to the opportunity offered to construction technologies in Paris region. We really hope that all of you are doing well with the current circumstances, and we are really glad that you can join us for this webinar. My name is Sevinç CHIMOT, and I'm the lead expert on clean technologies and Smartcities at Choose Paris region. Who is Choose Paris region? We are an economic development agency dedicated to help foreign SMEs to establish their business here in Paris region. To begin this webinar, in the agenda today, we will speak about market opportunities, open innovation, trends, key players, and accelerating program. I would like to introduce you to Guillaume Bazoin from Léonard. Léonard, his first mission is to detect emerging trends in Vinci's business and markets. And Vinci is a major construction player in France. And our second guest will be Thomas Leduron from Impulse Partner. He's the founder and managing partner. Impulse Partner is a specialized incubator and consulting firm in the area of construction, energy, and smart city. If you have any questions, please use the chat button. We will take them at the end of the session during our Q&A session. So, next slide. Paris does not need that much pitching, so I will be brief in my remarks. I want to give you an overview of Paris region construction sector and, if possible, persuade you to have Paris region on your radar as an alternative source of expansion. So first, I'm going to speak about construction dynamics in Paris region that you should be aware about. Paris region ranks first in the French building industry. The construction sector has always been a powerful sector in France. The construction sector represents 140 billion annual turnover in 2018, and Paris region accounts 30% of the national construction market. So here I wanted to highlight 4 major projects that are building the industry dynamics of Paris region. The first one will be the Grand Paris Express. Is a public transportation network that will add 200 kilometers of new railway lines and 68 new stations by 2030. But half of it will be operational for the Olympic Games. So what is interesting in this Grand Paris Express is that we're going to create 186 new urban development projects around the 68 new stations, and it is representing 84,000 housing units per year, 2.5 million square meters of office spaces, and much more. Another driving force is reinventing Paris region. Since 2015, we had 5 urban design competitions that cover a total surface of 2.5 billion square meters. And the objective is to create and to give a new shape to the capital. The next one will be the ambition of Paris region with the program of constructing 100 innovative and ecological neighborhoods, which is also underway. Currently, 67 developments have been financed, and it's still continuing. And another driving force of the construction industry as well in Paris region will be the Olympic Games. Which therefore building sector is becoming a real priority target in the Energy Transition Act, with 2 approaches, building renovation and high energy performance for construction. Yes, building alone accounts for 44% of greenhouse gas emission. That's why it's also a priority. But the construction sector as a whole is also subject to productivity and climate issues. And today, productivity should be rethinked. The transformation of the construction industry is also underway, also accelerated by the COVID pandemic. Cutting additional costs is no longer a question of improvement, but it's a question of survival. Yes, this short introduction was to give you an understanding of the Paris construction dynamics. So my next slide will be divided in 3 points. I want to give you an understanding of how our startup ecosystem is dynamics. Second, I want to give you an understanding of why and you should develop your technology and your R&D here in Paris region. And I really want to invite you to join the Paris region ecosystem. So Paris region is a vibrant, innovative ecosystem. Just in Paris, we have more than 8,000 startups. France has a huge pool of skilled talents, and it's a real startup nation with a strong entrepreneurial mind. Business creation rate in France is among the highest in the Europe. Currently, there is a total of 350 accelerators. New players are opening every year in Paris region, creating funding, learning, and business opportunity for all this young company. And after, financing is also here. We are looking for innovative technologies, and for innovating technologies, there is support from the government, there is support from Paris region, and I'm going to talk about it later. So once I told that, yes, I wanted to speak also about venture capital. Paris region attracts 73% of the value of French investments, and venture capital going into clean tech startups is also going very strong. We are, I don't know in according which KPI, but sometimes we rank first and sometimes we rank second in terms of fundraising, either before London or either after London. So this was about venture capital. Developing your R&D in Paris region. Yes, France, we can consider that is a fiscal paradise for innovation and R&D project. When you combine all R&D and innovation incentive, meaning that grants, meaning researcher cost or innovation tax credit, we can define Paris region as a fiscal paradise. Here, I just want to highlight that there is more than 1,200 public and private R&D labs in Paris region, when you can find all the expertise or where you can develop any kind of new technologies. We will be very happy to link you to this ecosystem. My second slide will be about talents. Paris region is concentrating more than almost 27% of the French students, and with the best engineering schools that I highlighted here in this slide. My next slide is about the competitiveness of financing R&D. The cost of a researcher between France and US is, we are cheaper. I don't want to use the term cheaper, but is much more interesting between France and United States, and the same for Germany. As I said before, when you combine all the tax incentive and financing and grants, France can be a real fiscal paradise for R&D development. So yeah, about the R&D taxes, what I wanted to say is that if you are doing R&D here in France, considering that is 1 million of expenses, you can have tax credit of 30% on it. And this is available for all size of company, is not only dedicated to startup or SMEs, large corporate also can benefit from that. And this is at the national level. And after the Paris region government for SMEs is also providing grants up to 100K euros. And after, you can also have advance loan from the Paris region government. And the last point will be about PhD student cost. It costs you 36K per year to have a PhD here in France during 3 years program. Well, this was about the Paris region market opportunity in terms of construction, and about also the ecosystem that we have in terms of tax, and all the support that we can give about innovation. And the last one will be Paris Region Startup Park. This is not specific to innovation, but strategy. If this is also specific to Paris region, if we consider that your business plan during the next 3 years is competitive and disruptive, we also can finance up to 250K your growth in France and in Paris region specifically. The grants will be allowed only if you invest the same amount, meaning that if you put 500K in France, we can, if we are convinced of your disruption and innovation, we can invest up to 250K. So you put €1, we put €1. I hope I managed to convince you to have Paris region in your radar and to decide to invest here in Paris region. Here is some key information about what we do, what we propose to you. So we help you to discover the Paris region market through industry insight, through business information, through business connections as well with large corporate. We help you to plan your expansion in France, and we help you to set up in France. This is the services that we are providing to foreign companies. So my next slide will be, this was the explanation of our services. But when I say business connection, here is our tech meeting programs. Because we know that most of the startups really would like to get in touch with some of the large corporate established here in France. We have this program dedicated and free of charge for all foreign startups. And you can log in the platform, fill your technology, and if your technology is fit with the large corporate expectation, we provide you 1 day B2B meeting fully customized. So I give you an appointment, guys, if you are interested in the French market. Our next event dedicated to smart energy and smart building will be in November. Just stay tuned and let me know if you are interested, and I'm going to forward you all the invitation regarding to this event. So this was my introduction. As I told you, I really try to be brief because Paris region does not need that much pitching. And I hope I managed to convince you. And I'm going to let Impulse Partner to follow this webinar.
Hi, and thank you for inviting me. I'm trying to share my screen. Just take a sec. It should be working. You should be able to see my screen right now. I hope it's working.
Perfect.
Good. Thank you, Sevinç. And yes, the idea is to illustrate through my presentation some of the hot trends that we have in the construction sector, and to demonstrate to you that Paris is a place to be if you are a startup active in the construction sector. This is, by the way, a picture of Station F, one of the places that we are operating. So it's one of the bustling startup scene in Paris. The overview of my talk today, just to show you when we discuss about construction technology, what we have in mind. So I will give you some examples of what are the hot trends. Then to describe what is our corporate innovation model and how we try to act as an intermediary between large corporate groups and startups, international startups who want to develop with them. And finally, why is Paris the place to be when you are active in the construction sector? A few slides very rapidly. I think Guillaume will elaborate on that, but we are all convinced that there is a huge potential in the construction industry to do things better, to do things differently. And obviously, it's such a fragmented industry with so many players and so many regulations and so many typical ways of doing stuff that new startups can really make a difference and disrupt the industry. First of all, the first trend is obviously digital construction. So it's anything that is usually paper-based that is going on digital media and data. So obviously you have all the design and the operating, but also the on-site task management. So this is one of the key elements today appearing on all the construction sites in the world. Obviously, more and more robotics also are coming into very actively on construction sites, either in prefabricated environment or directly on construction sites. This is an example of a wall, a 2-meter wall that will be built by in 40 minutes by a robot. A lot of the innovation has to do with productivity. With one of the big challenge of the construction industry is to find talent and to find staff when you have projects, and so the idea is to have less staff in dangerous situations and to have all the technology you can have to minimize the impact on the health of the workers and to improve their productivity. So this is just one of the examples of how the exoskeleton can help reduce the pain on work sites. We have a lot of startups that are active in the imagery world. So it starts from satellites to drones to manual scans that you can operate when you walk in construction sites or in a tunnel. Obviously, you have so much technology today that it's easy to capture the built environment and to convert it into actual numbers, figures, and estimations for construction. So very useful. Building information modeling, I think, is very familiar to many of you. Is also one of the strong backbone of all this digitalization. And the good news is that the government is pushing for its implementation in France. This is the case in many countries in Europe, but especially in France. So we will have more and more BIM construction. And then we have a whole range of, we can call that smart sensors or IoT that will become active on the construction site. We've seen a lot of them develop during the COVID crisis because of the new constraints with the distanciation. Some of the workers were having either connected shoes, connected helmets, or connected jackets, just to check where they were and if they were in not too many number in the same location. It has a lot of implications in terms of productivity, safety, post-work site analysis of what we can do better for the next time. And obviously, low carbon construction. So it's not only wood, but it's any type of design and construction mode that will make better environmentally friendly buildings. Again, we have a strong push from the government through the regulations to impose more and more stricter rules for energy consumption. So it's a big drive for startups because there are many things to develop for the new constructions and as well for the renovations and the existing buildings. Circular economy is another big trend that is really booming these days. Again, the idea is not to redevelop everything from scratch. When you destroy a building, half of the material can be reused. Many of them are still in very good condition. So this is an example of a marketplace that is reusing construction materials, and this is becoming a very strong trend right now. Energy, obviously, anything related about energy efficiency in buildings. Very interesting stuff as well with open data and how you can connect those data from the cities to real estate evaluation of what is the price, for example, for rental in a specific area, or what is the price of a building. It's very accurate because you have mass of data, and based on those data, you can really build automated simulations of what will be the cost of a two-story building facing the sun in this location. So this is also potentially very disrupting for the industry because most of the people are still working side by side. So that was just a snapshot of some of the illustrations that are happening today in the world of construction, and I'm sure Guillaume will elaborate on that. Just to give you a few words about Impulse Partners and how we help those type of innovations to deploy in the market and to find a customer base. We are, like Sevinç introduced, we are an incubator and a consulting firm. We work exclusively in the field of construction and infrastructure. We work with many of the largest names in Europe. And we do for them specific deal flow and sourcing of startups that are relevant for their needs, because they need to innovate, they need to differentiate, they need to improve their productivity, and in sometimes they also need to work with smaller startups for topics such as digitalization and robotization. They don't have internal staff who can master those skills. We've been working with more than 150 clients. We are helping for free more than 500 startups that we've selected, and when we think they are relevant to our partners and our clients, we will help them develop relationships with them. In many cases, they are startups who are just growing, so they need space. So we offer them hosting space and lab space, and obviously we connect them with clients, but also prescribers, investors, and we've been helping those startups to raise more than 150,000 millions. And last but not least, we are very active in all the trade shows happening in the construction industry, because again, trade shows are a very good place to meet people and to display your innovations. The way we do it is that we operate vertical platforms, each of which is based on a specific objective. It can be a digital construction or low carbon construction, circular economy, innovative housing, or smart city. And in each of those verticals, we will have a number of corporate partners who will finance us. So we have a club of market players, and we will every month we will push 5 or 6 startups to them. They will react. They will test some of the startups. They will work with some of the startups, and this is generally the beginning of the relationship, commercial relationship between the startup and our corporate clients. And we've been doing that for 6 years, and every year we are adding a new bubble on this screen because we have new thematics and new innovation objectives from our clients. We are not working only with Parisian startups, obviously. So this is the mapping of all the startups we work with, and like I will describe right after, our role is really to connect those startups, whether they are Paris-based or internationally based, to the French decision makers. Coming back to Paris, I think it's a very good illustration of our business is a good illustration of what your business could be if you were to come in Paris. This is an overview of our client base. And if I change the slide, you will see these are our clients that are based in Paris. So it's not only that we work for clients in Paris, we work with the leaders of construction and industry in the world, and many of them happen to have their head office in Paris. And when we say the head office in Paris, they are very, very near. So I played with this map. In the red arrows are two main offices where we have our teams, and all the small logos are the head office of our clients. It's not only that they have their head office, but they have all their decision makers. It's generally where you can access the international markets. So it's fun to be in Paris and to go to 20 minutes from your office and to discuss a project in South Africa or in Canada or in Southeast Asia. And all the decisions can be based for those groups in Paris. Obviously, as it was said by Sevinç, there's a lot of global innovation hubs, corporate innovation hubs, as well as other innovation. A lot of networking, obviously, because all those people they have after work, they have schools, they have alumni networks, and so on. So you can really benefit from this high concentration of talent and decision makers. Everything in the same neighborhood. Station F is one of the examples of many others. It's the largest startup incubator in the world. It's more than 3,000 startups that are incubated. We are one of the operators. We are operating all the smart city startups of Station F. And it's a great example of a single place where you can meet investors, clients, and all the support services you will need to hire staff to pay your tax and get tax benefits from the government. This is some illustration of what we do every day. So we use our offices and places like Station F to arrange meetings between startup companies who have great innovations to show, but don't necessarily have the good network. And we connect them with decision makers, executive members of executive committees. And you see many pitch sessions, demonstrations. And this has clearly demonstrated that it generates business for the startups and investment and so on. Some of the trade shows I was mentioning before, Paris again is very active in terms of trade shows. So especially in the field of construction, we've been working a lot with all the key players to organize with them key events, again, to showcase startups and potential clients. I've already shown that. Many connections with investors as well, French investors, Paris-based investors, but also international investors, because they come to Paris to source deal flow. So I'm not going to detail the list, but this is the list of investors we work with. And each of them has at least done one investment in one of our portfolio companies. And this is just an example of our company. We are Paris-based. We do less than half of our turnover in France. We do 40% in Europe, and the rest is Asia and North America. So by being very local in Paris, you can have actually access to very large markets. We've been working in Brazil with Saint-Gobain, in South Africa with Lafarge-Holcim, and I have so many examples of that. All the large French construction companies, and Guillaume will present what Vinci is doing right after. They all are very active around the world. They are all very renowned, and it's in Paris that you can meet them and that you can make the difference, even if you need to be working outside of Paris. That's why we end up working with Israeli companies and German companies and UK companies who reach to us to have an access to the not only to the French market, but really to the international market through the French players that are based in Paris. I think that's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to have questions when Guillaume has finished.
Thank you, Thomas. If you have any question, do not hesitate to use the question button, and we're going to take them at the end of the session. And now it's time for Guillaume Benzoin from Léonard, which belong to Vinci Group.
That's right. I'm just almost ready to share my screen. And there we go. It should be full screen by now.
Well,
yeah.
Just, yeah, thank you, Guillaume. Let's go.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Guillaume. Like you just said, I'm in charge of open innovation and startup programs at Léonard. And Léonard is the innovation hub for the Vinci Group. I joined about 2 years ago after early career in the United States, working in different startups, mainly in prefabricated construction, and digital fabrication. So I came into the Vinci Group to help build some of the startup programs that I'm going to describe. I'm going to try and stay under 15 minutes, so we have times for question. But first, what I wanted to talk about in a bit of context around the construction tech. Yeah, and how that's increasingly seen as one of the main levers of disruption for the economy. I'm zooming slightly more out than what Thomas did right earlier, and I'll go faster on this because you're all interested in construction. But something happened in 2017 with a report from McKinsey talking about the productivity gap in construction. Shortly after this report came out, several VC funds were started. It started mainly in California, and then went all over into the US, and now it's something that we're starting to see happen with some of the first dedicated funds uniquely for PropTech and ConTech happening in France in the last couple of weeks. One thing that's interesting about construction is, as Thomas was saying, how fragmented all the players are. And this is a graph that you're seeing that was made by Box, the company that's somewhat like a Dropbox and Google Drive, about how files and information flows between players for any specific large project. So you're looking at software, manufacturing, financial services, media and entertainment, and at the center, you're looking at construction. The blue dots are outside players. The red dots are players are part of your organization. And the main thing you can see, and I'll just attract your attention on looking at construction versus financial services, is financial services are extremely centralized. It seems that there's several circles, and it all boils down to having one central point of truth, one central point of understanding. And when you look at construction, first of all, you see that the majority of the dots are blue dots, meaning that most of the work is outsourced, and that there's very few links, and it's very tenuous links. That's one of the reasons, or maybe one of the outcomes of the productivity gap, and one of the things that is being changed right now through all the startups coming into the field. I'm showing you like these two slides just to talk about the dynamic of construction technology and how it's evolved over the last few years. I told you about the report that came out in 2017. Here we're looking at just US-based investments, but you can see just 2018, we're going from less than $1 billion investment all the way to 3.5. And the numbers I'm looking at for 2019 are getting it closer to 6 billion. So it's something that's entirely exploding, where there's a bit of a lag between the North American ecosystem and the European ecosystem, but where we're starting to see that similar sort of trend happening in Western Europe, and it's also happening in France. I'm going to move on because we don't have that much time. One of the sort of elements that was shared with me by one of the venture capital firms that we work with called Building Ventures in the United States is this smiling curve that was first theorized by the Acer people that are building computers in the 70s. And they were looking at the value chain being something where you have quite a bit of value on the fabrication side of the business. So really putting all the elements together. And what Stan Shi, who was the CEO of the company in 1992, suggested is that it would be likely to evolve into a world where you would have most value on the left side of my graph on the R&D side and on the distribution side, but that everything that's linked to fabrication would actually become commoditized. You can think about how a company like Apple is structured today, and you'll see that it looks a lot like that smiling curve and a lot less like the 1970s value chain curve. What we're seeing with a translation of 30 years in construction is pretty similar. A lot of the value has historically been centered on the construction aspect, on the general contractor putting things together, making sure the payments are working, that the materials are there, that the workers are there, that they're able to sell to their clients. What is emerging, and it's clearer really every week almost at this point, is that this construction part, the general contracting part, is something that more and more is going to become commoditized, just like fabrication became commoditized for computers in the 80s. And that the elements where we're creating a lot of value are increasingly going to be on the design and pre-construction side and on the operation side. I could give you more examples of that. Maybe we'll talk about it in the Q&A, but I guess I'll move on at this stage. Just to push this idea even further, this very recent report from McKinsey looking at the whole value chain in construction, and if I just read it, development, design and engineering, general contracting, OEM, specialized trades, and operation and maintenance. Looking at general contracting, you have the place where you have the lowest margins, and you should really read the report, but the outcome of this report is saying general contracting, so tens of billions, hundreds of billions, maybe trillions, or maybe 8 trillion a year, is described as a model that could become obsolete if modules and better building information models improve planning and lower risk. So if that's not a reason to, for us all to wake up, I don't know what is. I'm going to move on this one. Just give you an example of a company that's very interesting to us and that we've been talking to. Actually, around the terms of having them come set up offices in Paris for their European expansion is Built Robotics. Built Robotics has developed a tool that you can install on top of your excavators and your different machines, and actually turns them into autonomous robots that go about doing your excavation and your grading. They start from civil engineering plans and are able to optimize the way the robot is going to work. And while it's doing so, it's obviously gathering all the data, all the incidents, all the types of soils, the productivity, every single element that's happened. So it's an interesting question to ask if you wonder how long will it take for such a company to amass enough knowledge of the excavation business to become better than the best experts that exists in the field today. And I think it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And so that's the part that most people disagree on. I'm actually going to move on now and tell you what we're doing at Léonard. So Léonard was launched over 3 years ago to answer some of those questions. We're based in the 12th arrondissement in Paris, so we're pretty close from Station F. We're operating out of a 5,000 square meter office where we have a mix of internal business units from Vinci, startups that are paying to be part of a co-working space, startups that are incubated as part of our different programs, and entrepreneurs from the group that are launching their own venture from within, in very short. Our activities really, one of our ambition is to become one of the hubs of construction, I'm going to say in France, in Western Europe, and in the world, as was really well portrayed right before me with the very unique position that Paris is in, both in terms of the businesses, I mean, like the contracts that are going up with the Grand Paris, with the Olympics and so on, with the presence of large players here that are international players, and with a huge diversity and talent pool in terms of students. Our ambition is really to build one of the world hubs when it comes to the emergence of everything that's going to be around the future of cities and infrastructure. So diving into our more specific operations, we are running events. We're running, I guess we call them festival in French, but a series of events around the theme. One's called Building Beyond, that's going to happen in September. We have foresight activities that are close to what the think tank would do, looking at the future 10, 15, 20 years forward. And we have on the right side of my screen what we call the entrepreneurial innovation part of our activities. So I described the entrepreneurship track. Those are people from within Vinci that want to launch a project on their own that could stay within Vinci or that could grow outside the boundaries of the company. Second part that you're seeing is startup programs, which I'll go back to in the end of my presentation. And we've also been working on an AI track where we bring in people that are building artificial intelligence enabled services or products within the group. And we incubate them in our office for 4 to 6 months for them to actually be able to go back and scale those activities. So focusing on the startup programs, because that's mostly what we're talking about today. We are actually operating 2 startup programs. The first one is called Seed, and it's an early stage accelerator that's focusing on companies that are at the prototype level and that are seeking to raise a seed round. We take in 5 to 10 companies every year and invest a small amount of money in them, about 60,000 euros, host them for about 6 months, and train them through an entrepreneurship program we run in partnership with Stanford University. The second program is called Catalyst, and that one is more relevant for, I think, the public that we have today. This Catalyst program it really aims at identifying, same thing, 5 to 10 companies every year that would be around product market fit, clearly identified, coming from anywhere in the world, and that have a strategic interest in partnering with Vinci for their development. I'll give you examples of a few companies that that we selected through this. I have to keep it short. We're working with within an ecosystem that's composed of investors, academic institutions, public institutions, working quite closely with French Tech, quite closely with ESTP, the French Public Works School, and investors from around the world. I won't go into the details of our startups. If you want to learn more, I would love you guys to go and check out our website and read about the seed startups and the Catalyst startups. But know that the Catalyst startups really do come from everywhere in the world. The US, Israel, Europe, no Asian companies yet, but we're hoping that will change soon. And to finish up, we ran our demo day for our seed program on June 4th with over 300 participants from around the world. 6 of the seed stages companies I described pitched that occasion, and they're looking to actually go about fundraising with a diverse and international crowd of investors. Last but certainly not least, when it comes to putting Paris at the center of the worldwide construction technology ecosystem, we've joined with other large corporations from Europe, all of them, but with global operations. So Cemex, Ferrovial, Hilti, Saint-Gobain through their innovation arm Nova, into a construction startup competition that also I don't really have time to go in details about, but I invite you to read up about it online, and also to join a seminar that we're going to have on July 8th to discuss this construction startup competition and how it's aiming to help find solutions for the challenges we're facing in our ecosystem. I'm stopping here and hoping we have enough time for questions.
Yes, we do have 10 minutes more questions, and I invite all construction companies to ask how they can take part to these dynamic markets. So do not hesitate. I'm just opening if I see some questions. Investment program. How do I get on the Catalyst investment program?
Catalyst itself is not an investment program. It's a collaboration program. So the way you get in is through an online application that we review and internally go about selecting the company, exchanging with you quite a bit to understand whether your priorities in terms of development are aligned with what we're looking for. And what we give that is not straight up money, straight up investment, is we have a dedicated team literally working every day at finding the right persons within the company to work with, and actually helping draft the early stage agreements that you'll have with a pilot or that you'll have with a company-wide agreement. So it's, I would say it's soft skills, soft agreement. The last thing that we haven't done yet, but that we'd love to do, is facilitate your arrival in Paris if you're outside of France, because we have offices, we have open offices, and we actually are looking at working more closely with Choose Paris region to help facilitate a company putting a couple people in Paris into our offices.
Thank you, Guillaume. No more questions? Maybe I have a question to Impulse Partner, Thomas. All the company, how do we do to be incubated, accelerated by Impulse Partner? How much does it cost?
You're muted.
Startup companies have to apply, and if we believe their innovation is relevant to our corporate partners, it costs nothing. We will just introduce them, and then we get our money from the corporate partners. So we don't want to act as a parasite for the startup companies. Our objective is just to push the best companies and accelerate their market discovery and mutual discovery with the market. So they just need to apply. We have our website, and you can apply on the website.
Okay. Another question is, how are virtual reality technologies adding value to the construction sector?
You?
You want me to go first? How are they adding value? So I'll answer first how they're not adding value, because I've seen more of that. And it's not adding value when it's a technology first approach. When you say, I'm going to use virtual reality or augmented reality on the job site, it works when it's an extremely necessary feature of a tool that you're building or that you have built that is useful to the people on the job site, which is not often the case. I've seen some examples. I've seen an example that Thomas sent me actually not so long ago. But it's not easy because it's a lot of technology. Sometimes it's a little bit like killing a fly with a shotgun. You don't really need that level of technology to achieve the use cases. But that's maybe Thomas, you have a more uplifting take on the subject. I don't know.
No, it's true that there is a huge potential for this type of technologies in the construction industry, but the developers of these technologies still have to clearly understand where they bring value, because all the solutions that we see are nice toys, but still very difficult to implement and very difficult to take into account the actual constraints of a guy with an engineering office or on the work site. So we are working hard with our partners and startups to make this discovery more active, but it still takes time because it's generally very different people who have developed these innovations, and they don't know the world of construction.
We have another question from Tillman. As a startup with a working product, it will be necessary to have big company as client to showcase the product market fit. How would you advise to approach that for a foreign company wanting to enter the French market?
The difficulty is that it's much easier to be on the French market, to be meeting people on the French market than you are far away. So we do that with external startups such as Israeli startups. But still, when you need to give more details, to have a next meeting and to meet the people and to make the first contract, it helps a lot to be there. I don't know, Guillaume, how you can say, but when people make decisions, they want to rely on people who are accessible and not too far.
I agree with you, Thomas. I'm expert of international expansion. I will advise all foreign startups to adapt the same strategy that they have in their home market, meaning that if they have sales force of 5 persons in their home market, if they want to reach the same turnover that they have in their home market, they should put the same effort in France. And France can, it's an interesting market of business opportunity. Guillaume, do you want to add something?
Sure. Maybe I'll comment on the more specific element of the question, which was around product market fit and demonstrating product market fit. I have very few examples of companies that go outside of their home market to demonstrate product market fit. It exists, but I'm not particularly comfortable, for instance, for the Catalyst program, putting in a company that's a foreign company that has not demonstrated some level of product market fit. Because I don't think we're necessarily the best actors to look for your product market fit, because we're so big and complex. So it's more of a more detail. It's answering just part of the question.
We have a next question. Does Vinci VC funds only support startup within construction product innovation, or even technology could be embedded with smart building for business usage? From Dinesh.
So very clear for that. It's everything. So I went fast on the verticals, but it's everything that's linked to construction, real estate, energy, and mobility. So the answer is yes, everything that's linked to smart building and operations and lifetime of the building will cover.
And maybe I have one question to complement. The portfolio of foreign company in terms of investment?
So we're not exactly running a VC fund. There's several investment pockets in Vinci, that are in Vinci Real Estate or Eurovia or Vinci Construction, that are operated and can invest in companies. That is not the case of Leonard. The only investments we make today are for the companies that join the seed stage, which are the very small investments that I described. It's the 60,000 euros pre-seed, right? So these are the ones we make. And in this one, today, there's only French companies. That should change for the next cohort. We should have German and English companies as well. When it comes to Catalyst, the program that I think is more in line with what people here are interested in, we're not investing in the companies. So I wouldn't say it's a portfolio, an investment portfolio, but half of the companies that we are working with and like actively trying to push in Vinci are foreign. They're not French, more than half.
Next question is from Vishal, and he's asking, what are some of the biggest challenges in the digital transformation?
To make a complex question very short, I think it's the cultural gap between all the young people who can develop great digital tools and the conventional industry that has a lot of constraints and regulations. And even though if they all want to move quickly digitally, they cannot, because it's very complex and it's highly fragmented. So I would say the cultural difference.
So our next question is from Robot at Work in Denmark. He launched 5 robot solutions in September based on their robot platform, and he asked, how can we get our technology to Paris? Maybe it's an individual question. We can take it later on.
You can. I think you can apply on our portals for Impulse and Leonard. Like, well, here we'll see it.
All this presentation will be sent, so don't worry for that. And when you register to this webinar, I ask one question: do you have any expansion plan to France? So don't worry, I'm going to get back to you. And if you need any introduction, I'm going to send all the information to our guest, to our speaker, and they already have your contact info, and I'm going to send their presentation. You're going to have their email address. That's it. Maybe a last question is about the construction technology. The 8th of July, everybody can apply.
Yeah, Guillaume? Everybody can join. Everybody can join the webinar, and every startup in the world that's working in construction can apply to the competition as well.
Okay.
The finals should be in Chicago in January, if we're allowed to go to Chicago then.
Okay, perfect. I think we do not have any more questions. It was very interesting. Thank you all for participating. I hope you really liked it. I'm going to send you a questionnaire to ask your feedback about it and how we can do better for the next times. Do you want to add something, Thomas and Guillaume?
No, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.